All right. Hello and welcome, ladies. Happy New Year. This is our first call of the new year. So we are just getting back into routine with these. And we're really excited to do it. Brenda and I's heart, and Sherry, if she hops on here soon, is really to share about building wealth from a biblical perspective, from a woman's biblical perspective, right? As stewards of our home and what we are caretakers of. It's unique to us in this space. So it doesn't get really talked about enough a lot of times in the homemaking world. And so we're excited to do that here on these calls. And then also help you just plug in with more diligence than ever to what you're being called to and creating. So that's our heart for this. Today we're going to talk about everyone's favorite subject if you are a busy stay-at-home or multiple, working mom, is time management, and that from a biblical perspective and how it ties in with wealth building and what we have seen the benefit of acquiring the skill in this area of in our family, and some tips of how you all can grow in that area with us, because we're all on this journey, right? Like Brenda and I are not coming here as experts like you guys. We have it all figured out. Absolutely not. um, but it's an area of constant growth and ever changing as our kids get older and seasons change or new babies come along. So always staying flexible with that as well. But Brenda, I'm going to kick it off to you first and ask what your heart is on this subject and how you've seen it bless your home, and maybe some stories and experiences.
Okay. I want to just first talk just briefly about the word wealth because Amber mentioned that a couple times, and we have that in the title of this. And obviously, you're okay with wealth if you're on here, but I want to just say that word used to make me kind of go, is that really for us though? Is that really something I should pursue? I mean, is that really like okay? Part of it's being raised in a Christian home, and we want to be humble, we want to serve the Lord, we don't want to pursue riches. The love of money is the root of all evil. We heard all the things growing up, right? And I learned though, and here's my fast, short version of it. When I pursued just excellence for my family, and that was, organizing my home well, which eventually, with having a lot of children, meant our home was getting way too small. We needed a bigger home. So I had a real vision in my heart for, I mean, my husband too. I say I, but it really mean we, for a bigger house for our family, for when we struggled to pay bills and put food on the table. We had a vision for not struggling, not living with the stress. I always had a vision for freedom, but we probably would have never called it wealth. And so now that I'm here, and if we would analyze our family's business and our position now financially, you could say there is some wealth there. There's plenty for future generations. And that was something that I didn't understand the blessings of until I'm here. And I also didn't understand the way that I thought of wealth as if you attain that, you're somehow greedy. If you attain that, you're somehow like driven by that only. You're probably a workaholic. There's just something maybe negative around it. And I'm learning now that I'm here, there's so much freedom in it. You do not think about money as much. You do not obsess about money. You really think more about service. Now that we have plenty, I find ourselves talking, our family conversation is a lot around how we can serve others and bless others with what we've been given. That's not 100% what we do. We also talk about more investments, more property for our family, or whatever interest the kids have at this point. We're here to help them pursue their further interests. But they all talk about it from an abundance mindset. Like there's always plenty. There's plenty to give. They're coming to me, my adult children, every once in a while, like, Mom, what do you think about if we like, just sort of help this person out? Would that be okay? And because we want to give, but we want to give wisely. Um, and the other day I was having a conversation with one of my older boys. He's like, I really want to help out, but is it like going to be, is that blessing the person, or is it sort of handicapping them more because it's someone who, maybe doesn't have the same mindset and work as hard as maybe we think they could, but we still want to help and bless them. And we're always having those types of conversations now, which I find such a blessing. So I just want to give you a little bit of that vision of what having a lot of income can be such a blessing if your heart is in the right place. And if you have a heart of service for others, it can be a wonderful tool. And I love how one of our friends that's also in the same business as us, who has made a great income, she always talks about money. Jessica Heffley is her name. Money as a tool. And it's just a neutral thing. Money is just neutral. It just gives you so many options. And that's really where we're at now with this. So back to as a stay-at-home mom, super busy, trying to pay the bills, trying to meet all the needs, wipe all the noses, change all the diapers, and make everyone happy and trained up well. How on earth am I going to work building a business into this, right? And so I think a lot of you, I would say the majority that I'm seeing here, that I know anyway, and I'd love to have you to pop in the chat. Are you already in the Plexus business or some business that you're working from home? Or are you new to this? Pop in so we a little bit know who we're talking to. We want to give you just some tips on what's worked for us as busy mamas. By the way, I have 11. I homeschool them all. When the opportunity came along, I wasn't looking for something extra to fill my time. My time was very much full. In fact, my husband had said no to me in pursuing a few other business opportunities because he said it would take up too much of my precious time. But when he looked at this one, he said, oh, this is different. I think you can totally do this and still keep clean underwear in my drawer. And that was his one request. And he really supported me. And it turned out it was doable. I had a 1-year-old in my lap when I started. And here's my secret. Before this even came along, because I had a large family, I had always pursued trying to establish a good routine for my family. And I will say, when this business opportunity came along, I had a well-established routine, but I had to keep it up. It would have been so easy to just let some things fall, like it always is once you get a schedule going. Keeping it up is part of the discipline of a good routine, is not letting it slack off. But guys, that was my absolute secret. I had a routine that ran so that in fact, I sat down with the family and said, Mom is going to be a little more busy on the computer, sending out messages, because it's going to mean we're going to actually have a bigger house. We're going to be able to pay our bills. We're going to get a new vehicle, meet the needs of our family. The big house was actually one of the bigger pulls for us at the time because we were so cramped. And so the family got on board. So here's what I want you to know. If you communicate it well to your husband and your family, and everybody's on board that this is what we're going to do, they're a team, we're working it together. So every day they get up and they do their chores, they do what needs to be done because they know it means mama is going to sit down and message some people and change some lives and bring in some income. Everyone's supporting everyone, and you can get this established to where this is the time of day mama works. This is the time of day I'm going to play with you. This is the time of day we're going to do school with you. This is the time of day we're going to sit down and watch a movie. But this is the time mama works. And if that's just my bottom line thing, if you can't get a routine established, I think you will always struggle to wonder how you can do this. Okay, enough for me.
I love it. Okay, so your is routine, creating a routine that the whole house can see or become part of, and teamwork. Like, I love that you said that teamwork is what I'm hearing. And maybe that routine changes every day, or a couple days a week it's one thing and a couple days it's not, but that everybody knows and can get in line with. I love that because you have a big, busy household. So I'm sure that's number one. Okay, so and you also talked about wealth being a good thing. There is so many instances in scripture where it says to pursue wealth, that a wise man pursues wealth. That a wise man is, they call it fat in the Bible, fat on the land, right? That is, he has abundance because he is wise and not foolish. And we use that wisdom with our time. I think modern society, we have gotten really lax with our time, right? It is all about, when can we find downtime? When can we do bare minimum? There's like this culture of bare minimum. And with everything, go to work and then go have fun, right? Like, I'm raising my children and we're raising a household where we go above the minimum, where we do our best wholeheartedly in everything that we tackle, that we are diligent wholeheartedly in everything that we pursue, regardless of what it is, which also means we're wholeheartedly when we have fun and it's a good time. We are all there for that, but we don't look to do bare minimum. And that's going to look different in everybody's life. That's what I was every time I see a young mom with a baby and a toddler and they don't have any older kids or they have like 3 under 3, those moms out there, I'm like, my heart just goes out to them. And if you're one of those moms on here where you are like 5 and unders and that's underfoot in your home, you don't have any older children to help out and it's all littles, I want you to know that while Brenda and I and Sherry has a lot of littles too, but we're speaking from a different season of our life. So what I would call you to and what I worked in that season was to be wise with my time and do the best I could, but not try to pair it to a woman that had a 13, 14, 15-year-old in their home that could be a power partner with, right? So we don't want to cause any sense of shame of I should be doing better. That's not what we are calling you here to. We're asking, how can we reflect and see, am I being wise with the time I've been given? And how can I look for gaps? This is going to be my biggest gift, not gift, my biggest gift. No, my biggest piece that I'm sharing is I am always just looking for gaps. Where are there gaps where it is a time loss that is causing more of a burden to our family than a blessing? Because a time loss where we're all sitting around the table playing a family board game, that is a gain. That is not a loss. A time loss might be where there's a lot of friction around lunchtime and kids are getting chaotic because I didn't have a plan and I didn't have a structure in place and now I'm frazzled and everybody's frazzled. That's where there's loss and friction. So I'm always looking for where are those, and they pop up at different times, different things. And what can I do to create, like Brenda said, a routine or a structure in that particular place to make this a more peaceful situation so we're not losing time and causing negative emotions, right? So like laundry, that's a huge area where it's a time loss in our home, lots of friction, lots of problems, stresses me out, stresses everyone else. And it was okay, I need a laundry routine. And the whole family and kids got to get on a laundry routine. So this is a peaceful place and it's not taking up space in my brain so that I can not be losing that and being able to give it into others, right? So, yeah, toddler versus teen years, so, so different. And to have grace know where you're at. But it's okay. I'm going to pass it to Sherry. Sherry, okay, hold on. Let me think. Before I pass it over, I want to paint this vision. If you haven't heard this before, I have been on this story. Then Sherry, get ready. I'm passing it to you. Um, it has been so worth it to constantly be on this path of improvement with time management, starting when I was 23 years old and now 35, because it's given our family abundant finances, abundant time that we can use as a resource for others and for gaps that we see in our own home, right? Because we have, I'm just going to be like, because we have wealth, we are able to be a shelter for others that need that because we managed that well, right? Because we managed time well and we were diligent and followed scriptural patterns of what that looks like. It's not just for our gain, and you on your own journey of self-improvement, it's not just for your gain, it's for what that's going to do for others. You 10 years from now in this constant state of where can I find gaps? How can I improve here? What is great about this and what should I leave behind? How can I say no to more and yes to what I love? From this joyous, wonderful place, you 10 years from now, your life will just be so full from these practices, right? So I'm going to pass it over to Sherry. And before I do, here's some scriptures. The soul of the sluggard desireth. So he wants something. That's where most people start. We want something, right? He desireth, but he has nothing. But the soul of the diligent shall be made fat. That's Proverbs 13:4. He becometh poor that deals a slack hand, just loose, right? Like that's how a lot of us, that's how I am sometimes with time. I have to come out of those seasons where I'm just like, oh, I'm going to wake up at 7:30 and have no idea what we're doing today and I didn't make a plan and slack. It's just slack, right? We can all probably know when we're being slack. So he has a slack hand becomes poor, but the hand of the diligent maketh rich, right? The hand of the diligent. I love how it always says hand because that's like you can hold something, create structure, shall bear rule, but the slothful shall be under tribute, right? And then one more. Um, there's one about being a king. Seest a man diligent in his business, he shall stand before kings, he shall not stand before mean men, right? Like there's so much in the Bible about diligence, and diligence from its Latin root is careful and highly valued. How much have we talked about this call on highly valuing the opportunity that you have before you with Plexus? If you see it as a high value asset, you will be diligent with it because you're careful with it, right? Versus something you just do it if it's easy or whenever it's convenient. So, Sherry, our friend that always has so much wisdom, as someone who has lots of littles underfoot as well, talk to us about time management, wealth, the tie-in in there, and maybe one of your biggest tips on this subject.
Thanks for having me on. So you're right. I started this business with little kids, and so I navigated through how to do this business with little kids. And there's a lot of creativity involved, and there's all the little things, and there's my personality involved. But the biggest thing I want you to know is that it's possible, and that I don't regret that I did it at all. I think that's the thing I want you to know the most. Everyone's life is going to look a little differently. You're going to have little different situations, little different stuff. But I also want you to know that it's just a learning curve, and you got to give yourself grace for that. If you look at me, you might think my life just like ticks along, just like rhythm, but it doesn't. I am always working on. I'm always working on this, even now. And I would say that now I do have my older kids. My oldest is 12 now, and it's shifting from having little kids to now having bigger kids. That's actually been more challenging for me than doing this with little kids, just because of my lids, the lids that I had that was holding me down and holding me back. So don't compare. Don't feel like other people have it all together, but you have a vision. That's why you're on this Zoom, and go after it. You know the things that you need to shift. They're already probably you already have the ideas. The same thing that's going to make you successful in your home is the same thing that will make you successful in this business. It's the whole element of come up with a plan, get creative, do what you planned, then reflect on what happened and do it over and over again. It's the same process that gets you successful in this business. If I was to look at what's the biggest thing to focus on that impacts your business, from reflecting on my business and also what I'm leaning back into right now, kind of I'm moving into momentum. So what am I leaning into right now is what is it that I need to be life-giving as a mom and to my team and to everyone I'm around. Some people might call this the happy mom, but I'm more like thinking life-giving, because happy sometimes seems a little emotional, whereas life-giving is much more like who you are. Some people might call it your energy, whatever it might be. It's knowing what those things are. So, Amber talked about the wasters, the time wasters. I've heard lots of people feel like, well, on social media, they can feel themselves wasting time. Well, when I've ever felt myself wasting time on social media, it's because I'm tired. That's why I'm wasting time. So when I intentionally go, okay, what is life giving to me? What is it that I need to be able to be life-giving, and make sure those things are prioritized, and make sure every day when I come to do my business, I actually have to stop. I don't know if it's 2 minutes or 5 minutes, but I got to remember where I was, what I'm grateful for with this business, and where I'm going. I actually have to do it every day. If I don't do it every day, then I get kind of lost. So that would be I just want to recap. I want you to just stop going for perfection. Just know that, trust your vision. You already know what you're looking for. Trust it, lean into it, plan, do, reflect. That's what we're all doing. That's what successful people do. They don't just suddenly have this perfect thing. They figure it out, and it's always changing. So just kind of trust that process. And then make sure identify what is life-giving to you. And so one thing for me right now, so I'm not your routine girl. I'm like your all over the place ideas person. So keeping me structured has been a big learning curve. But here's the thought that just like gets me in line, because my brain will just get going on something. I'll get excited about something and it will take off and it will be so fired up about something. The thought is, I want to be able to do this tomorrow. I want to be able to do this next week. When I have that thought in my mind, all of a sudden, it's somehow very easy for me to shut it down, because I've hit burnout before. I know what it feels like to be burnt out and to just kind of go to a screeching halt because you didn't stop when you still had the energy left to stop. So I don't know if that helps you, but that's what's helped me right now. Is just, I'm like, no, I want to do this long term. I need to have the energy tomorrow and the next day and the next day. So that's what's keeping me in line right now.
I love that. I love that. And so wise. Like that's the reflection on, okay, what is wisdom right here, right? Like, and so I love that, Sherry. And the plan, do, reflect. Like plan something, try to execute it, and then look for why didn't that go well or what went well about it, right? I remember one of our diamonds, Charlotte Seams, mom of 12. And I sat with her and I had two little babies and I was an emerald. And I said, how do you do this? Like, how in the world? Because I was getting to that point where there was so much growth and momentum. And she said, plan out your perfect day, your ideal day. And I still do this to this day. Plan out your ideal day and then work backwards. So for this ideal structure to happen, what needs to come into place? Like for me, it's the meal planning, it's the laundry schedule, it's getting up at a certain time because we had dinner early enough for me to clean up and do bedtime so I can go to bed on time so I can wake up on time. Like there's so much structure in managing things well, but writing out your ideal day and working backwards. And then I know personally, every 3 months is about when that ideal day changes, needs to change because seasons have changed and summer is different than spring and winter is different than fall, right? But it's that constant reflect, plan, do. So love that, Sherry. All right, we would love to do some questions and answers. We want you to get the most out of this time as possible. You have me and Brenda and Sherry and so much wisdom here on. So if there's any questions, now would be the time. Please feel comfortable to unmute and ask. And if not, we'll just move on to our ending here. Any questions?
I would love, like, you can pop in your questions, but I just want to say, if I could take every one of your heads and your faces and just let you know that you can do this, you are doing it. The very fact that you're on this Zoom, this is what it feels like to do this. If you're trying to get this feeling that it feels like this perfect thing, it's not what it is. It's this feeling of being in that process. So you're doing it right now.
I love it. I love that. Okay, yeah, Brenda, if you want to stop recording and then we can do Q&A.